welcome back to a very special edition of Perkins Pipes. For this one, I really had no other choice but to bring out the 2024 Perkins Pipe commemorative by Catholic Pipes or CatholicPipeCompany.com with the cross on the front that my son had designed and the Perkins Pipes logo that my son had designed. It's very important that I have something that my son made for this episode. You're going to see why that is. So let's get this guy lit. Let's get to talking. Beautiful day here in central Indiana. If you follow this channel very much, you know that I've spoken of my son and my daughter quite a bit. My wife and I, of course, love them dearly. I want to talk about helping a boy become a man. Our son is 23 years old. He'll be 24 later this year. When he was younger, somebody had loaned me a copy, and I would show it to you here, but I don't have it. I'm sure I've returned it to the person who loaned it to me. A book called Raising a Modern Day Knight by Robert Lewis. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. In it, he talked about kind of some activities and things that one might do to help a boy on the road to manhood and how important that is in the modern age. Now, before we get too far into this, I want to say a word to you who may not have any sons. Maybe you have daughters. Maybe your children are grown. You are grandparents. Or you have no children at all. This is a topic that is relevant to all of us, right? We need women to help young girls become the women that they're made to be. And we need men to help boys become the men that they were designed to be. In fact, I've said this before, but I need dads of boys to be rearing their boys well, because I've got a daughter. Right? She's going to date somebody. She's going to get married perhaps. And I want her to encounter a godly young man who's been reared well by his parents. So it's possible you're going to have some contact with boys. Maybe you're an aunt or an uncle, a grandfather, a grandmother, father, mother, whatever. Cousin. You may coach a team. You may be a small group leader at your church. So I hope this will be beneficial to a great many of you. So before, when our son was younger, I said this friend had loaned me a copy of Robert Lewis's book, Raising a Modern Day Knight. And Lewis makes a very good point. We in the United States and in the 20th and 21st centuries, we really just don't have those benchmark moments by which a boy knows that he's on the path to becoming a man and has in fact become a man. We have certain things. Age 16, you can get your driver's license. Age 18, you can vote. Age 21, you can drink alcohol. When you're old enough to go to war, old enough to buy a lottery ticket, right? But are these really the benchmark moments? Other cultures have had them, and lots of cultures have done these in different ways. And Lewis uses the pattern of a boy becoming a knight in the Middle Ages is kind of his framework for looking at this. Hence the title, Becoming a Modern Day Knight. So I planned for when our son turned 13 that for the next 5 years, I would take him away each fall to one of our favorite state parks here in Indiana, Turkey Run State Park. Beautiful park. Our family's been there. We've hiked. We love it. And our son, even back then, he really enjoyed hiking and the adventure and all that kind of stuff. And on that first trip, I'd asked some men to write him a letter, a note about what it meant to start on the journey to manhood. And at one point, we were out on, I believe it was Trail 6, the one behind the cabins in Austin. If you're watching this, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Trail 6. Or that's the number. I know the trail. Where I shared those notes with him. And then I shared with him a little book that I had written for him, The True Man. And reading from the back cover, it says, the journey to manhood is an exciting adventure. It is helpful to have some guidance along the way. This little book will help point you in the right direction. Based on a dad's thoughts, prayers, and discussions with other men, it lays out 5 characteristics of the true man. In the time leading up to his birthday, I've given a lot of thought. I've given a lot of thought, a lot of prayer, a lot of discussion with other men about what it really means to be a man. And I boiled it down to 5 characteristics: strong, courageous, engaged, serving, and convicted. And there's a little introduction. I kind of lay everything out. You know, you're becoming a man. So here's a little guide about how we're going to do that. And I said, so here you are, turning 13. It is the beginning of your journey to manhood. It's a journey that some have compared with the path of a young man, with the path a young man would take toward becoming a knight. You can think of yourself over the next few years as being a page. We begin the journey together with this definition of manhood. I want to talk about these points with you, discussing them, seeing how to live them out in our own lives. At key moments, we will celebrate other stages on the path to manhood, and the day will come when you will know deeply within you and without a shadow of a doubt that you are a man. And I think that many young men today don't really know that they're men. Again, is it just when you've had your first drink? Is it when you have made love for the first time to a woman? Is that what makes you a man? Really? Being captain of the football team? There's a little bit more to it than that. And so I'll read you just kind of the titles of these 5 sections here. The first one, a man is strong. He fights as a warrior with the strength God gives him. And then, had a couple pages here, 3 or 4 pages of description about what that means. Next one, a man faces fears and challenges with bravery and courage. Same thing, a little description there. Then a man engages passionately all aspects of life. A man serves others. And finally, a man lives by his convictions. And I ended it with some lines that I translated from Virgil's epic poem, The Aeneid, book 12, lines 435 to 439, where Virgil says, and here's translation, "Learn from me, son, of true work and the way to grow into a real man. Learn from another of various fates, but for now my right hand will give you protection from war and will lead you toward greater glory. Soon, when your age has matured and your soul seeks for models to follow, call to your mind the example of those who have gone on before you." So I gave him this little book with the idea that we would read a little bit at a time over the course of that year, which we did and discussed. And also on that trip, I gave him this, a little plaque I had made, which has the points from the book burned in there, and something that he could hang on his wall. So I gave him these two things. Then over the course of the next few years, like I say, we read, we discussed, we lived life. The scripture says we talked about things while we were on the road, getting up, lying down, and so forth. And every year we would go back to Turkey Run State Park in the fall, have more adventure, talk more, and so forth. When he was 17, we'd gone to Turkey Run, and there's a place nearby, a pizza place nearby we'd like to go to, so we'd gone out for pizza the one evening. And I asked him, I said, who are the men, adult men, who really mean the most to you right now? And he named 4 men very quickly. And one of them was his worldview teacher that he currently had at school. One was his track and cross country coach, and a couple were very, very good friends of the family that had built into his life. So unbeknownst to him, I arranged then for the following year, on his 18th birthday, we went back to Turkey Run, and he and I went out for a night hike. And lo and behold, we got to a certain spot, and those 4 men were there. We built a fire. And each of those 4 men spoke some words of blessing and encouragement over my son, Austin. And then I presented him with 2 gifts. I presented him with his first adult Bible. I'd asked him before what translation he liked the best. I even asked him about color. He had no idea this was going to happen. But I asked him, he liked black with this silver edge. And I presented him with his first adult Bible. And of course we read, St. Paul tells us, talks about the armor of God, right? Talk about the helmet of salvation, breastplate of righteousness, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And to reinforce that, he got his first sword. And we'll try to see if we can get this guy in the video here. But I gave him a real sword. And you can see it here. Really handsome sword. As a reminder what it means to be a man, and sword of the Spirit and all that. And then over the course of that year, the year in which he turned 18, we did one other thing. We read John Eldredge's Wild at Heart together. I've read this book multiple times. I've given it away numerous times. I've highlighted a lot of it. Highly recommend. Wild at Heart, Discovering the Secret of a Man's Soul. Pretty much anything Eldredge writes. I've read most of his stuff. Everything I've read, I've absolutely loved. And he talks about not just what it means to be a man, but what it really means to be a man of God, a man after Christ's own heart. And this is not, I'll tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. As Eldredge points out, God did make men fierce. And you think about that, there's a scene in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the book, of course, by C.S. Lewis, and the film, where I think Mr. Tumnus is speaking to Lucy Pevensey about Aslan, right, the great lion who's the king, the leader of Narnia. And he says, he's not a tame lion. And Lucy says, no, but he is good. Real men are not tame, but they can be good in terms of what it means to be a man of God. So those are the things that I did. Now, I'm not putting that out there as a, oh, hey, look at me, I'm dad of the year. Please, please. And if anybody thinks that, you missed the point of the video, okay? The point of the video is just to throw some ideas out there. Some of these ideas I took, borrowed, tweaked, completely changed, added my own from reading that book by Robert Lewis. So there's a question I would ask that you might pop into the comments. And as always, if you like this kind of thing, we certainly invite you to click subscribe. Just having such a great time over here at Perkins Pipes, and I love hearing everybody's comments and interacting with people via YouTube and so forth. But the question to answer, put in the comment box is, have you done anything like that with the boys or young men that are in your life, whether they're sons, nephews, cousins, whatever? Did anybody do anything like that with you when you were a boy? And then a question to think about. Is there anything that you could do now with any of the young boys or men who are in your life? Again, nephews, cousins, grandsons, sons, boys on a team, boys in a youth group. Because I'll tell you this, just getting older doesn't make you a man. As Malcolm Guite likes to say, I do these little things in order at last to do nothing. Or as I like to say in Latin, Parva ut tandem, nihil agam. Have a wonderful day.